Okay, this presentation is about cycles in nature. Earth contains a fixed amount of atoms and molecules that are constantly being passed from one form to another and being recycled. Uh, in this slide presentation, we're going to look at how water and carbon are both involved in cycles. We're going to begin and look at the carbon cycle. In this slide, we're looking at carbon stores. Carbon stores or carbon reservoirs are where we find carbon on Earth. 99% of Earth's carbon is found in rock, such as limestone, on the Earth's crust. Then we have oceans. Water contains dissolved carbon dioxide in the form of carbonate and bicarbonate ions. Living organisms contain carbon in compounds such as fats and proteins. And when living organisms die, they're going to decay into humus, and some of that humus can eventually end up forming fossil fuels. Now we're looking at how carbon can go from one reservoir to another. Photosynthesis is the only process that can take carbon from the atmosphere as carbon dioxide and turn it into organic compounds such as glucose. As plants and animals get energy from food, carbon is released back to the air as carbon dioxide. Some dead organisms are decomposed, and bacteria break these down, releasing the carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere by respiration. Some of these dead organisms are not decomposed fully, but they form fossil fuels. If these fossil fuels are burned by combustion, the carbon dioxide is released back into the atmosphere again. Okay, here's a sample diagram of the carbon cycle, and if you're looking at it, 3 red arrows are all bringing carbon dioxide or carbon back to the atmosphere, and only 1 green arrow taking carbon dioxide or carbon atoms out of the atmosphere. So photosynthesis is the only process that can take carbon out of the atmosphere. Okay, this is a kind of diagram you should be very familiar with. You should definitely take this diagram, be able to draw this diagram. It includes photosynthesis, respiration from plants, respiration from animals, bacterial respiration as they break down decomposed compounds and humus, and then burning, where fossil fuels are broken down and turned back into carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, as we said at the start, most of the Earth's carbon is in the form of rocks such as limestone. Limestone is one of the rocks found in the Earth's outer layer or crust. It's rich in carbon in the form of calcium carbonate. Limestone is formed from the calcium shells and skeletons of sea creatures that are compressed by the ocean's weight over millions of years. Okay, but it's not going to be permanently there. Sometimes rain, which is slightly acidic due to CO2, can react with limestone and dissolve it, releasing the carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere again. Okay, now we're going to look at the water cycle. So in the last cycle was the carbon cycle, where we're looking at how carbon atoms can move from one reservoir to another. Now we're looking at how water can move between reservoirs. If you look at Earth from space, it's mostly blue. Okay, 70% of the Earth is covered with water. Okay, 97% of all of the water on Earth is actually found in the oceans. And this is all salt water. The remaining 3% is found in rivers, lakes, ice caps, and in living things. All living things need to take in water. We use it as a medium for chemical reactions to occur. Plants use water in their chemical reactions to make food. And animals use water because it's an excellent at regulating body temperature, and it's a very good solvent and is used to transport materials within the organism. Now, looking at water transferring processes. Evaporation is a change in state from liquid water to gaseous water vapor. The sun provides the energy or the heat to cause this evaporation. Condensation occurs when water vapor cools and is changed back to tiny droplets of liquid water. Precipitation is the name given to rain. Precipitation includes rain, hail, sleet, and snow. These are all ways that liquid or solid water, in the case of ice, can fall back to earth. Transpiration is the loss of water vapor from leaves. So plants take in water and they lose water through their leaves. Transpiration is the loss of water vapor from leaves. Plants continuously lose water in this way as a mechanism to draw even more water up from the roots towards the leaves for photosynthesis. Looking at cloud formation, so all the water that evaporates from the oceans and lakes. At low pressure, air rises and cools even further. Cooler air can't hold as much water vapor and condensation begins to happen. Dust particles floating in the air provide a surface for this condensation. It increases the chance of condensation happening. This results in clouds. So clouds are suspended droplets of water that have condensed from water vapor. As these water droplets collide, they get bigger and bigger, and eventually they'll be heavy enough to fall as rain. Okay, this is a typical diagram of a water cycle showing evaporation, condensation of the clouds, transpiration from plants, precipitation or rainfall from the clouds over land, collection and runoff back into the oceans. There's another diagram that I recommend you be able to draw that diagram. You pause the video, you look at the slideshow, and you take this diagram down. In laboratory investigations, we might like to detect the carbon dioxide produced during respiration or breathing or during burning hydrocarbons such as candle wax. Carbon dioxide reacts with lime water, which is a solution of calcium hydroxide in water. The lime water turns milky. This is known as a characteristic test for carbon dioxide. So lime water turns milky in carbon dioxide. Okay, we can detect water using a white chemical called anhydrous copper sulfate, which turns blue with water. The water and air can be detected using ice in a test tube to cause condensation, and then using anhydrous copper sulfate to detect the water. The amount of condensation formed will depend on how much water vapor is present in the air, and that can depend on the pressure at that time. We can use anhydrous copper sulfate to detect the water produced by a plant leaf in transpiration. Remember, transpiration is the loss of water vapor from the leaves of a plant. In this practical, tie a bag around a leaf and water the plant well for a few days. Water travels up from the roots through the stem before being released from the leaf through tiny small openings called stomata. You'll then see condensation inside the bag. This condensation is water. We can show it's water by using the anhydrous copper sulfate test. We can show that the roots absorb water by placing a plant in a test tube of water and monitoring the water level inside the test tube. Certain situations, such as sunny or windy conditions, can increase the water uptake because transpiration is happening at a faster rate. So the water level will drop very quickly if the plant is placed in a windy situation. So on this slide, it shows 2 exam questions. Okay, these are the style of questions you should be capable of doing. So you can pause the video or pause the slide and answer these questions. Okay, these videos are available from links at the end of the slide presentation that goes with this video. So each video gives a short little summary, and I recommend that you watch them.